Got some breaking news. I'm going to take you to France, eastern France, right along the Swiss border, where the president is now coming out for the class photo, they call it.
Another beautiful day, and a few new leaders. The president, it was interesting, the president was just walking with Mark Carney, the leader of Canada. Looked like they were having a good conversation, yes. So it's nice to be neighborly.
Yes, and just for the trivia buffs at home, name the G7. Obviously the U.S. and the U.K. You saw the prime minister from Japan there. Italy, Germany, France, and Canada. There are other invited countries that include Egypt, Qatar, and Syria, also the UAE. When you consider what's happening with Iran, etc., it could be part of the discussion. We might drop in here a moment. Maybe we could eavesdrop a bit, but Aishah Hasnie is watching nearby as well. And Aishah, welcome to our coverage. Hello to you.
Hello to you, and this is one of my favorite moments of the G7 because you can pick up on a lot here, the interaction between these world leaders. Sometimes you find little funny moments here, their interactions, shaking hands, and where exactly they stand. It's all very interesting. The president just coming off the heels of a couple of very important meetings. One was with the G7 leaders and the Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelensky. That was this morning. Of course, they talked about ending the Russian war on Ukraine. And then he had a bilateral meeting, a one-on-one meeting with the Emir of Qatar, and just wrapped up a meeting with the president of the UAE. Of course, the UAE took a lot of incoming from Iran over the last several weeks, a lot of fire, and Qatar is being thanked for really getting this Iran deal across the finish line over the weekend. They sent the Qataris over to Tehran and really were able to shepherd this across the finish line, along with the Pakistanis, of course. This morning, the president doubled down. Bill and Dana said Iran will not have a nuclear weapon, and if they do, he said they will suffer unbelievable consequences. That was a direct quote. And as far as the text that everyone is waiting for, still haven't seen it yet, he says that that text of that memorandum of understanding, it's going to be released soon. In fact, he says he's not just going to release it, he'll probably have a press conference about it and read it to you word by word. And he says it is much better than former President Barack Obama's JCPOA deal. And he also said, this was a big one for him. This has gotten under his skin, this reporting that there is a $300 billion reconstruction fund. He wants to make it very clear that no amount of U.S. tax dollars are going to be going to Iran, that fund is actually going to be put together by the Gulf Coast Coalition as long as Iran keeps their end of the bargain. That's from Vice President J.D. Vance. But the president really doubling down and saying not a single penny from the U.S. is going to Iran in any way, shape, or form. So here we are. The family photo looks like is over. And now they're off to their next meeting in this very busy summit. Bill, Dana?
Rather efficient, I think, with that
let's
photo.
get this picture over with. Aishah, one thing that the president wanted to focus on is the taxes and regulations, the heavy hand that Europe tries to place on the United States. Any more on that?
Yeah. We haven't picked up on that yet. We also expect him to talk about, the NATO allies picking up their part of the tab when it comes to defense and security. That is expected to come up as well. So we'll be looking for that. Of course, and this is all on the heels of the defense secretary in the UK quitting in the last week or so over the UK not putting up more money for its own defenses. So I imagine he's going to bring that up too ahead of the NATO summit, which is in a little short while in Ankara, Turkey. But this has primarily been focused on the Strait of Hormuz, reopening that. Very important to the Europeans, as well as economic growth, and artificial intelligence will be a big deal as well. These are, I believe, now developing countries that are sitting down with the G7 leaders, and there is Prime Minister Modi of India, of course, who President Trump fondly looks at. They're shaking hands, having a little side chat before this gets going here.
Aishah, tell me why Syria?
We'll wait and listen and see what comes.
I certainly understand UAE. I could even make the case for Egypt.
Yeah.
Syria, why?
can I tell you that the president actually made a comment about Syria today when it came to Israel. He was talking about how upset he was that Israel fired shots into Beirut on Sunday, hours before this Iran deal came together. And he said, you know what, if Israel can't do this, go after Hezbollah without telling everyone else what they're doing, then we're going to have Syria take care of it. So that's how he felt. That's how strongly he feels about Syria right now.
Yes, one thing is clear, and the president talked about the Strait of Hormuz being open by Friday of this week. But one thing is clear from the U.S. side, whether it's the president or the vice president, they are jumping on every moment to make sure that the deal stays in place, and that's been pretty obvious now for about 3 days. So we'll see what kind of oil can be thrown into this thing to keep it on the track or not. And as I say the latter, Hezbollah is now saying that they have assurances from Iran that Israel will be forced to leave Lebanon. Otherwise, Iran won't go through with the deal on Friday. All right, now it's Tuesday. You got 72 hours to get it done. But Aishah, what's clear to me is that the president and his team want to very publicly make sure that their position on this deal stands. Your observation on that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And not only the U.S., but I would also remember and bring back that Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, also in her statement, right after the deal was agreed to on Sunday, came out and said, Lebanon has to be a part of this, you know, that the hostilities have to stop in Lebanon. Lebanon was not a part of this agreement. As far as we know, we haven't seen the text yet. But Israel's attacks in Lebanon, the activity, there has to be a ceasefire of some sort. So that is something that the G7 leaders are also focused on seeing through.
Thank you, Aishah. Aishah Hasnie there reporting in Geneva as they were blessed by God with that beautiful day, Dana.
Yeah, gorgeous.
That is a summer blue sky. Now we will move toward negotiations with regard to Iran on the nuclear deal. And based on our understanding, if the deal sticks the way it is, they'll go for a period of 60 days. What do they get from that? We don't know. We know what the Iranians have done for years. They delay and delay and delay. And is it 60 days, or does 60 go to 90 and 90 to 120?
That's why, in a way, that's why if the DocuSign blockchain idea of signing the document the other day, the MOU worked, I'd postpone a photo op until after the 60 days, because if it's a wait and see period to see how that goes, I would wait and say you don't get rewarded with the photograph until that's in place.
On the positive side, if you do get the strait reopened and you do get gas prices reasonable for the summertime, that's good stuff for folks here at home. Yeah. Then you move into the fall when at that time everything is about the midterm election. So got a ways to go. We'll take it a step at a time. That's what we know for now.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube, and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.